Good. Hello from Costa Rica. Today is storytelling time. I love to tell stories and I love to listen to stories because we can always relate to somebody else's story, and it helps us sometimes to overcome our own challenges and to get inspired and to get encouraged to maybe take steps that we're a little afraid to take. So this week I'm celebrating 20 years of living in Montezuma and 20 years of my studio, Montezuma Yoga. And I'm quite proud because it was not always easy and there were lots of ups and downs. And I also want to use this moment to really thank a few people. And it really only takes a few people in my life who really saw what I was doing and in really important moments pushed me to take the next step. And I started my story when I was actually still living in New York, and that was in 2000, and I was going to Costa Rica for like a vacation. I fell in love with the owner of Hotel Los Mangos and went back and forth between New York and Costa Rica. At the time, I was doing yoga in New York with Elena Brauer and really going to yoga every day. And it was really helping me to feel connected, to feel strong, and she became somehow a friend of mine as well. So then I went to Europe and September 11 happened. And when I came back to New York in October, I just knew this is it and I have to take the jump and I'm going to go to Costa Rica and just see what happens. And, you know, my previous work was working with photographers, doing productions. I wasn't a yoga teacher yet. So I arrived in Costa Rica and I was like, you know, back then there was no internet and all these things. I was basically wondering, okay, what am I going to do? And what am I really passionate about? And what I was really passionate about was yoga. So I reached out to Elena and I said, well, you know, I have this beautiful place in Costa Rica, this hotel of my boyfriend, and would you like to come and teach a retreat? And she was like, yes, I'll do it. So November 2001, 20 years ago, I packed my bags, I moved here, and I invited Elena to come and organize the first retreat. And when she came, she said to me, so, what are you going to do? And I was like, honestly, I don't really know. I guess I'll probably try to bring yoga teachers here for retreats. And she said to me, you are going to be a great teacher, and I'll mentor you, and I think you should start teaching yoga. So 20 years ago, Costa Rica, there was no yoga at all. There was one woman here in town who was chanting mantras and doing some yoga for the locals, but no yoga studio or anything. It was just not the time yet. And everybody thought it was crazy because everybody was more into parties and they were like, yoga, who cares about yoga? But I thought, okay, I care about yoga, and if I can't find it here, then why don't I bring it here? And I'm forever grateful to Elena to really push me into this jump, you know, and to be like, you can do it. I know it and I'll help you. So I started to teach just some friends and people in town, and they really liked it and enjoyed it. You know, I did it for free. And so slowly started to see that I actually really enjoyed teaching too. So then one day, I'll never forget, around this time, I was up in the hammock in the bungalow at Los Mangos. It was pouring rain and I was chilling out, and then all of a sudden I really had this vision of like my website, and it just came up like 4 pages, and it was like the name Montezuma Yoga. And I thought, oh, this is great. But you know how it is. So many times we have these glimpses and we're like, oh, I'll write it down later. So I was the same. I was in the hammock and I was like, oh, I'll write it down later. I was too lazy to even get up. But the thought, luckily, didn't leave me. And I just kept thinking, you know, having these visuals and thinking like, oh, well, you know, I should call it Montezuma Yoga, and I should really give it a name and make it a business and maybe make a website. And finally got out of the hammock because it wouldn't leave me, and got a paper and a pen and wrote down those ideas of the 4 pages. Went back into the hammock, chilled out. And then later on went down to my boyfriend and told him, hey, I had this idea of like, you know, creating Montezuma Yoga and making a website. So now we're talking 2001, when it was really not a time where everybody had a website, right? And my boyfriend was totally not into websites or tech, and he was just like, okay, whatever. if you think you want to do that, go ahead, And that kind of totally was like, oh, well, who am I now to have a website? And that's probably a stupid idea. And, I kind of totally let it go and almost would have dropped it just as some crazy idea, which we do so often, right? Luckily, one of my dear friends back then, she was Italian. She is Italian. Her name is Carla. She was just starting a business to do websites, and she was my best friend, and she was having this small office in town, and she was burning CDs. You really have to visualize that back in the days. Dial-up internet. She was sitting in this office burning CDs with house music for restaurants and businesses. And she had just met this woman, Belen, from Argentina, who was a graphic designer, and they just started to create websites. So I went to her as my best friend and I said, I had this idea yesterday about creating a website, and it totally actually came to me, the whole website, and it's a yoga website, and what do you think? And luckily, since she was Italian, she was super excited. She said, this is a fantastic idea, let's do it. I'll make you a special deal. We make your website for $500, which was still a lot of money back then for me. And she said, we'll do it, it's super great. And I was like, oh, really? And that feeling when somebody picks up on an idea that you're almost dropping because you think oh, who am I now to come up with this idea? So bless Carla for picking up that idea and kind of encouraging me to do the website. And this is how Montezuma Yoga, the name, was born, which of course now is genius that I'm in Montezuma with the name Montezuma Yoga, because now there's yoga everywhere. So blessed to be Carla and having her as a friend, and so I did the website, and it was a really beautiful website. I still remember it. We exactly created each page how my vision had been. And then years later we saw each other. She came and she said, when you came to me back then in 2001 with your website and your yoga idea, I thought you were completely crazy. I never believed in it, but you were my first client and I had to convince you to do it. So that's why I said to you, let's do it. So you see, it's really funny, because if I would have not had her, just faking it and making me excited, I probably would have dropped it. And it would have been a beautiful idea, again, just dropped wherever. And for me, the conclusion of this story is we so often are having a little glimpse of an idea, and then we get into this space of who am I now to do this, or this is crazy, or I can never do this, and all the self-doubt creeps in. But it's so important to have some people in our lives who help you to believe in your dream and who encourage you. And there will always be people who say oh, you're crazy, this is not going to work. But really find those few people. So in my life, it really only took a handful of people in those really important moments to pick up on my idea or to encourage me to keep going and to keep believing in it. And here I am 20 years later, which is really the reason why I'm here and why my business is thriving and still beautiful, because I had people, whenever I doubted it, to pick up on it and be no, you gotta keep going. So I like to be that person for you and encourage you, if there's anything that you're holding back, if there's any dream you have, take me as an example. Don't listen to the people who are you're crazy, it's never gonna work. Find a few people that are always there to support you to live your dream, and reach out to them. And, or even take a coach or somebody who inspires you to stick to your dreams and your visions, because those little glimpses of your intuition speaking to you with an idea, with the project, those are really, really precious moments, and you cannot just let them drop if you want to live your dream. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. So this is my little story for today, and I hope it inspires you to whatever you need to do, whatever practice supports you to believe in your dreams, don't give them up. Just, you can do it. So, wish you a beautiful day, a beautiful month of November. Feel free to share your dreams with me, write them in the comments, reach out if you need any support, and I believe you can do it. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Namaste.